Make sure you guys hit the subscribe button if you guys are enjoying the content that we're throwing up. And make sure you guys hit the like button if you enjoy the video. And yeah, let's begin. Any of you guys remember when Jonathan Hickman's Avengers and New Avengers first launched? And we got to the story, I don't remember which one it was. I want to say it was the last White Event, but we get to the story arc where like Black Swan talks about like the Library of Worlds and how it was a gift from the Ivory Kings. And like nobody knew who the Ivory Kings were, and you didn't find out until the end of the story. But I remember seeing like all these fan theories about the Ivory Kings, right? People were like, who in the heck are the Ivory Kings? Some people thought it was existing characters. Some people thought it was new characters. It was amazing. Turned out to be the Beyonders, but like it was amazing. You know, we never really did finish remastering Jonathan Hickman's Avengers and New Avengers, did we? I know we did Infinity during the time that Infinity War and Avengers Endgame was coming out, but we never remastered the rest of it. Let me know if you guys want to see that, right? Because like, it's like, I'm rereading it again right now. It's still the greatest Avengers and New Avengers story ever told. In reality, it's a Black Panther story, right? And it's like the best Black Panther story ever told. But in this video, we're covering too powerful for the MCU, the Beyonders. Now, here's the crazy thing about the Beyonders. Any of you guys who read or who saw my videos or read the story Secret Wars, you had the Beyonder. And then in Secret Wars 2, you had the same character, the Beyonder, who visits Earth. This is where everybody gets confused because everybody looks at the concept of the Beyonder and then they ask the question, how does it relate to the Beyonders? And in Marvel Comics, like the Beyonders have existed for a long time, but you never really saw them. You didn't know what they looked like. The only real indication we got was the form that the Beyonder took during Secret Wars 2. But Jonathan Hickman kind of cleaned all this up during Avengers and New Avengers. And what he did is where he harkened back to like old stories, right? So like the unofficial, basically Secret Wars 3 from like, you know, Fantastic Four, issue number whatever it was, 314 or something like that, I don't remember off the top of my head, where they basically talked about the idea of the Beyonders, some beings that existed from like the Beyond verse, right? The space beyond the multiverse in the Marvel Comics. What Hickman basically said is that the Beyonder that we saw in Secret Wars and Secret Wars 2 was basically the equivalent to a child, right? That's really all it was. Whereas the Beyonders are like the adults. And you kind of have to believe that like, it's like, what is it? It's like Jaws 3, right? Like it's the little kid shark, you know, and it's like, oh my God, you know, there's a shark in the lagoon, you know, and they're like, oh man, you know, it's crazy, and people are panicking and they catch it and they kill it, and it's like, okay, cool, everything's safe. And then like the blonde chick comes running in, she's like, this isn't the one that killed Overman, right? Like its mother did, and then like Louis Gossett Jr. is like, the damn shark's mother, you know, and it's like all that kind of crazy stuff. And then like there's this 35-foot long great white shark that just comes swimming up to the window, and it's like the most ridiculous looking thing ever. But that's what this is, right? As powerful as the Beyonder was in Secret Wars 1, Secret Wars 2, and we're talking about a character that was so powerful that the only being that could really go toe-to-toe against it was the Molecule Man Owen Reese. The Beyonders are even further above that, and that's what makes them too powerful for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Understand, guys, in a lot of these videos that we make, we can usually try to find a way to make it work, right? You can usually find a way and say, okay, so we can throw this character in there. We can say, okay, yes, they're really powerful, but like if these telepaths come together, they can do this, or if we get enough reality warpers, they can do that. No, there's no winning here, right? There's no conceivable means for anybody in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, aside from like the one above all, to stop these guys. Because you're talking about beings that killed everybody in Marvel Comics, right? Like that was the craziest thing, right? Those of you guys who didn't read it, and if I end up remastering it, a little bit of spoiler for like a 4 or 5 year old story, but basically like when the incursions start, Reed Richards secretly sent Hank Pym into the multiverse to find out what was going on, right? He sent Ant-Man into the multiverse and said, hey, see if you can figure out what's happening. And Ant-Man actually had to shrink down to a small enough size where he could actually squeeze between universes, right? And literally like he's kind of free floating along. He doesn't really know where he's going. He's just jumping from one universe to the next. And then he ends up coming into this universe where like all the cosmic entities are being killed at the same time, right? Like literally it's like opening a door and a massacre is happening on the other side, right? Like literally eternity and like in infinity and the Celestials and like all those, you know, that version of Galactus, like they're all just being eradicated, right? And then like as he starts to look around, he realizes this is happening in virtually every universe at the same time. And it's the Beyonders who are doing it. The Beyonders are killing all the cosmic entities. So then like after all these cosmic entities fall, the Living Tribunal shows up and it's like, okay, cool, day saved, right? Living Tribunal is the second most powerful being after the one above all, if you don't take into account the Marquis of Death and like these little one-off characters that we've seen here and there. So if you consider like consistently appearing characters, it's the second most powerful being in the entirety of Marvel Comics, done, right? Like it goes against the Beyonders, and the Beyonders kill it, right? They kill the living tribunal, and one piece of itself falls in every single universe. And like I remember reading that, and it was just like, dude, like, okay, like I don't know how to interpret this, right? That was the craziest thing. I remember reading that at the time, and you guys know what I'm talking about, right? When you guys were reading it when it came out, you're probably like me, like, okay, so like Hank Pym is telling Captain America and like Black Panther, he's telling all these guys this story, and he's like, you guys don't understand. There's no way we can win. All hope is lost here. There's no conceivable means of defeating these guys who wiped out cosmic entities, right? Like, and that was the question, because in the story, like you get, what is it? You get like 3/4 of the way through the story, and then like they're in the middle of talking to Galactus and the Celestials, and they just leave. Like they just leave out of nowhere, and it's like, well, where did they go? Like you don't know where they went to. Earlier in the story, you find the living tribunal there, and it's like, what in the heck is going on here, right? Like, why are the cosmic entities just disappearing? Because they were being systematically massacred across the entirety of the multiverse, and it was the craziest thing. I was reading that and I was like, dude, I don't know how to process this. Like my brain cannot comprehend what's happening right now. That's why you're talking like this is a hopeless cause. And a lot of you guys have asked me to cover this, right? Like the Beyonders, and like too powerful for the MCU, the Beyonders, they're way too powerful. There's no means to win. There's no one here that could defeat the Beyonders. No amount of magic from Doctor Strange, no use of the Infinity Gauntlet from Thanos. If the one above all exists, then sure, I guess, you know, that could be the case, but the living tribunal couldn't do it, right? Like there's no one who exists in the Marvel Cinematic Universe that we could ever even make up that we could bring in from the comics who could pull that off, right? Because what you're talking about, like the Marquis of Death, for example, was powerful enough to, like, you know, destroy a universe with a wave of his hand, but the Beyonders could have done that with the greatest of ease. They destroyed the physical beings that represented the entirety of the multiverse, and then wiped out the being that is in charge of protecting the multiverse, right? So even if we looked at characters like Zom, who's probably the most powerful villain of Doctor Strange ever in the history of Marvel Comics, even more than Dormammu, there's still no chance to win. If we bring in the Marquis of Death, he will fall. If we bring in Matthew Malloy, he will die. If we bring in Mad Jim Jaspers, if we take Franklin Richards into his adult form and use him, he will die too. Like everyone would die. Nobody would live. No one would survive this encounter with the Beyonders. The only reason why assuming that I end up remastering it, I won't tell you how they fall, like how they lose, but like, I guess that option is available, right? But it would require us to travel across the entirety of the multiverse and grab one version of a character from every single universe that exists out there, and then like send them all against the Beyonders at the same time. Like, I mean, I guess in that case, sure. But at that point, assuming that like the Beyonders hadn't destroyed the multiverse and we met them when they first popped up, doing that would destroy the multiverse. Like, it would lead into Secret Wars like we saw, where it's just Battle World and there's virtually nothing left. Like that action would lay waste. Like it would literally cause a chain reaction that would cause all the universes to just spontaneously combust or to be destroyed across the whole multiverse. So sure, we defeat the Beyonders and wipe out all creation in the process, right? So I guess, you know, zero-sum game at that point, you know, but nonetheless, there's no, too powerful for the MCU. There's no way to make this work, guys. There's no conceivable means for us to make it work and to say, well, the Beyonders could lose under this circumstance and still survive. I mean, they would lose, but everything else would be destroyed in the process. There'd be no way for us to make any character in the MCU survive. That's the power that we're talking about here, right? Like beings who can do anything. They can alter reality on a universal scale. They can destroy cosmic entities from the lowest ones all the way up to the highest ones. They're capable of creating life in any form or fashion that they see fit, right? There's no limit to what these guys can do. Like as a group, they're on par, I'd say, with the one above all. Individually, no, like not by a mile. Like I doubt one Beyonder could have taken on the living tribunal and succeeded, but possibly. I mean, it took 3 to kill it, and that's all it took. And the fight didn't even rage on all that long, right? The fight went on. I mean, how long did that fight go on for in the comics, guys? Those of you guys who read it, that fight went on for what, maybe like 3 minutes, and then the living tribunal died. Like it wasn't really even that long of a fight, and I don't even know if it was 3 minutes, right? I know it was a fight across the multiverse, but like it was literally them fighting across the multiverse, right? So like, imagine those old kung fu movies where like the fight starts in like one room, and like over the course of like maybe 5 or 10 minutes, it makes its way through different rooms or something like that. That's what the fight with the living tribunal was. They were literally passing through whatever universes were left as they were fighting, and the living tribunal fell. This is the kind of power we're talking about here. Just the ability to do anything you want to on virtually any level. Who's going to stand against you, right? Like, who's going to be able to defeat you? Nobody. Nobody could defeat the Beyonders, right? They are the single most powerful beings that exist in the entirety of the Beyondverse, right? This place beyond the multiverse, but they're the single most powerful beings to ever exist in the history of Marvel Comics, shy of the one above all. Maybe Thanos with the Astral Regulator, right? Because he possessed the power of the one above all, but that depiction of the one above all wasn't really accurate in terms of it being like an omnipotent being, right? Like, it was basically like, I'm the one above all. I can do anything I want to, unless the story requires me to not be able to do that, and then I can't, right? Like, that's basically what Jim Starlin did with that infinity ending story or whatever it was. But yeah, no, too powerful for the MCU, the Beyonders, way too powerful. No one lives, no one wins, nobody defeats these guys. They invade the Marvel Cinematic Universe, they lay waste to everything in existence, all the superheroes die, all the villains who may have decided to come together die, and they probably wipe out all the cosmic entities and all life across the multiverse, and then leave. They leave the place as just a giant white empty void. It's just a husk of what used to be creation inside of a universal space, and nothing else is left alive. That's basically all it would be. It'd be the map makers from Hickman's Avengers and New Avengers, except instead of on a planetary scale, it's on a universal scale, and everything's gone and everything's dead. So yeah, feel free to see if you can't find a way to make them lose. I can't conceive of one. These guys are just omnipotent in virtually every conceivable way. With that being said, guys, we're gonna bring this video to an end. If you are new here to Comics Explained, make sure you guys hit the sub button to become part of the Rob Corps. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you drop a like, and I will catch you all later. Peace.